You don't butt in line. You don't sell drugs. You don't molest little children. You don't profit off the Neon Crew podcast. The rules were set a long time ago. They don't change.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite the emotional line delivery from Rainn Wilson from Super, which is a conversation we are going to have. I am so fucking curious about your thoughts on that movie.
Yeah.
You said you watched it last night, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched it a few days ago. It is still fresh on my mind, and I took a lot of notes.
Oh, there we go. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I might get swayed, but we'll find out when we talk about it.
Oh, we'll find out. But first, speaking of superheroes, we saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
And I think, we're just going to jump right into the conversation.
Are you taking Super?
I'll take Super.
Okay.
Believe me, I'll take Super.
Okay. Now the way that you're talking about it, really interested in how you think about it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam was watching the Bike Riders last night, and I think I had that as a 7 out of 10. I think I'm going to leave it as a 7 out of 10. I've also figured out my rating system on how I rate movies in terms of enjoyment.
Interesting. What did Sam think about Bike Riders, real quick?
Dull as shit.
Oh, that's not surprising.
We kind of...
Not too different from how we felt.
Well, yes. I thought, for some reason, I was like, I got this as an 8 out of 10 in my head. I was like, but the way I was talking about it, I'm like, I'm never going to watch it again. I don't remember much of it.
I think it's one of those things where I think you started out that way before the conversation, and then we started talking about it, and then you were like, I might knock this down.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened because, the way that we were talking about it, it was not, and I learned more about Easy Rider during the process.
There's a difference between like a movie like Sorcerer where we just wax poetic the entire time, and then there's the Bike Riders where you're like, I could go one way or the other, and then I come in and I'm like, yeah, kind of narratively dull.
Well, I told Sam, I was like, they took a picture book and just put it into a talking, picture. Like, that was it.
Which, if you like that, then cool. That's awesome.
There you go. Terrence Malick for you.
Don't speak too soon. Although it is your turn to recommend this episode.
Yeah, we're not going Malick. I'll tell you that much.
Not yet.
I have an idea about what I want to do. But let's get into Deadpool and Wolverine.
Hell yeah.
2024. Directed by Sean Levy.
Sean Levy. Ryan Reynolds' boy, who directed Free Guy and The Adam Project.
There we go. That's what I was going to look at. Yeah, two kind of like whatever movies. Actually, I haven't seen either of them, so I'm only assuming.
You're not wrong. I've seen them both.
I think I saw this had 6 writing credits on here.
So, written by Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, and Sean Levy.
Yes, and then they had to give Liefeld, based on the characters created by, I'm pretty sure that he got credited somewhere in there. Maybe not.
Okay.
They had 7 people in IMDb, 6 people with pictures. And usually if it's not if it's based off source material, they give credit for the writing on whoever came up with the characters.
Yeah, like the original comic writer or whatever.
They'll throw them in there. So
I'll say right now, this is a movie where I feel like you can tell it had a lot of hands on it.
Yeah, I had the same. All right, let's
get into it.
Starring Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, Wade Wilson, Hugh Jackman as Logan Wolverine, Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova, Matthew McFadden as Mr. Paradox.
Matthew McFadden. I recently watched Pride and Prejudice because Megan had me watch it, and he's the boy in it. He's the man.
It's awesome.
Uh-huh.
So this is the 3rd installment of the Deadpool series. They're bringing back Wolverine. We get into it. Kind of going through a little bit. Opens up with Wade or Deadpool looking for Wolverine, and then they show that the movie. Well, there's a movie that ended his kind of timeline in our universe, and so bring it back to present day. And he's talking with Happy about joining the Avengers, and they kind of scoff and laugh at it. And that he's got to do something, really like figure out that he doesn't want to do it for himself or that he needs to do it for others. It's just like, this is my job, I guess. Anyways, the time variance police come in.
The TVA
come in, and they find out that Deadpool has this mission to help out Mr. Paradox with ending the world or clipping a timeline, which is his timeline. So he decides he's got to go find Wolverine. And then, he steals a time watch and goes to different universes to find a timeline with a Wolverine that's suitable enough to work with him on his quest to save his friends.
That's right. And we should also mention, too, that this is the first Deadpool film, I guess, like, first Fox integrated property to be included in the MCU, which I guess is something to note there. So yeah, spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously, if you haven't already been spoiled by, like, fucking Facebook and Reddit. Because
they got it everywhere.
They got it everywhere. It's what I don't know if you had the same experience I did. I feel like whenever I watch a movie like this where there are a ton of like cameos and spoilers and everything like that, I sometimes manage to stay lucky before I go and see the film, even though I'm like still actively on Facebook and Reddit and
I think you can
YouTube.
peruse by stuff, or I know the reels are what get me.
Right.
And then I think like posts usually give an indication about what they're going to talk about, so you're kind of able to swivel.
And then I go and see the movie, and it's like my phone knows that I saw the movie, so then it just releases the floodgates, and all of a sudden I'm seeing, and I said spoilers already, so, you know, I'm seeing shit about, like, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and, like, Chris Evans, and fucking, you know, Wesley Snipes as Blade, and, like, all this shit. Like, it's just free reign. And I'm like, well, thank God I saw this when I did, because I managed to just missed the floodgates.
Yeah, I saw there was one reel. So I went and saw it last week, Saturday.
I saw it a week ago too.
And there was one reel that had like Ryan Reynolds, you know, saves Canada or something like that. And it's like I'm like I feel like I'm watching the movie here, you know. So I'm gonna turn this off before, and I watched probably a minute and a half of whatever clip. You know, it's the clip. It's the very beginning clip when he's taking out the TVA people.
Yeah, he's doing the Backstreet Boys dance.
Yeah, and I saw that and I was like, boy, that was weird. That seems like that was like right from the film, you know. And I go in there and I see it. I'm watching him. I was like, how the hell did they get this on a reel on Facebook? And now all of a sudden, you could clip together the whole freaking movie if you wanted to.
There's like clean videos of Channing Tatum as Gambit doing his now memed line where he goes like, "Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself." Yeah. Which I feel like
pretty good.
Thank you. I was going to compliment myself on that. Megan would be proud. Shout out to Louisiana. So yeah, obviously spoilers for this film. So I guess I can just sort of jump in with my thoughts. I had fun with this movie.
Yes.
I think it's a interesting entry into the MCU in that it's the first R-rated one, and obviously they take near full advantage of it with the swearing and the violence and everything.
Yeah.
My biggest thing with this movie is I am very interested to see how this film is on another watch in like 5 years or something.
I think it'd still be fun.
It'd still be fun, but I'm thinking more so in terms of the jokes and the humor, because there's very niche jokes that are thrown in this thing where if you're someone like me who's chronically online all the time, you're going to probably pick up on most all of the references being made. But then, you know, there's some people in the audience that are probably going like, why the fuck is Channing Tatum as Gambit? Like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, there's not going to be another Blade. Why did Ryan Reynolds look at the camera like that? Like, I don't know. It's interesting that, and I feel like, you know, the previous two Deadpool movies were like that to an extent, but I feel like they really ramped it up with this film.
Oh God, this thing was, I don't know how much Ryan Reynolds partakes in creating the jokes. This thing was so self-referential, and it is like of the time, which I think much so. they played into quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, like, I can see 5 years, some of the dialogue or some of the jokes aging poorly as 20th century start, you know, they got bought out by Disney, so they start making more of their properties. Because it's not going to be, it won't be as like a clean, hey, this is the first one. It could be, you know, they might have 4 other rated R ones that come through. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. So but I still think I think it's going to still be pretty fun. Like, it's one of the, Ryan Reynolds has a very witty, charismatic nature about him.
I mean, there's a reason why he it seems like he almost plays Deadpool in every other movie he's in. It's because he's so ingrained with this character at this point.
They're almost like one of the same, because I guess that's how Deadpool is in the comics too. Like, it was made for him. And it's really, we're lucky that he decided to take it on.
We're lucky that he didn't give up on it after X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I count that. But
I mean, I don't think anyone does. I don't think this movie does, really.
no.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's good as the character. There's a reason why he's playing him. He's very charismatic and witty, and he's able to deliver these jokes and these lines in a way that's, I don't know, it kind of resonates with you. Even if the jokes 100% I didn't like connect with or find funny, I still like his performance and I like the way he delivered them.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's effectively pulling the character damn near from the page of the comic and integrating it into the movies in a way that feels quite faithful. And I mean, you can tell that Ryan Reynolds just loves the character. Even if there's people out there who like don't love the way he does it or don't love the character that way, you can't deny that he's doing a faithful job of adapting it.
This movie felt very passionate. Yes. I will say it was nice to see a movie that felt like everyone wanted to be there and was giving like their all. I don't know if you could think of one mailed-in performance besides probably Wesley Snipes.
And even Wesley Snipes, and I think I read somewhere that he expressed excitement at being able to play Blade again.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I still have to see the Blade movies for myself. But even he's doing like a decent job at just being a part of the cast, you know. And it's one of those things where it's sort of like that No Way Home thing of, oh, we're bringing these characters back. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, are these just going to be like cameos? You're going to see them for 5 seconds and then they're going to fuck off. It's like, no, they're actually like side characters that are a part of the film's plot. Like, they're integral to what happens in the narrative. The narrative itself not being the most, you know, impactful, important thing about the movie, but still, it is nice to see them for more than just like 5 seconds pop up and say, hey, I'm Blade, and then fart away off screen.
They, you know, it reminds me a little bit of who is it, the Spider-Man, whatever the third one was, Far From Home,
No Way Home.
You know, but I like in this sense that they give you here are the rules, this is what's going to happen to him. You know, like that. I appreciated that as like it's kind of fan servicey, but we're also taking. I mean,
it's very fan servicey.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, because like they took Gambit, who never got launched, Wesley Snipes and Elektra, who were one-stop shops. Well, I mean, like I guess Blade had a little bit more of a run, but
Blade was 3-stop shops.
Yeah, but I think they were just forcing that on people.
Yeah,
you know,
it had a bit of a run. It had a bit of an ice skate uphill, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I don't know if I don't know if I guess we could look if I had I watched Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
And like the first one was so successful, they're like, we have to create another one.
Sure.
We're just gonna mail in on this. I don't know if Blade was like that or if they plan to do 3 movies.
From my understanding, again, this is with the caveat that I haven't seen the movies. From my understanding, I know people like the second one a lot because it was
the one I owned on VHS.
Well, that, and it's directed by Guillermo, so it's
a little
more.
I guess I could see that now.
Artistic in that sense.
Yes.
But yeah, I get what you mean. Whereas like, there's a lot of characters that have more staying power. You
do No Way Home.
Because like
you're taking all the heavy villains and you're throwing them in there where this one it felt like they had obviously the rights to put the characters in there without having to go through litigation or whatever. It was just I appreciated that it wasn't necessarily like, hey, you're gonna get the most recognizable people back into this.
There's a reason why people were hyped for Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. There's a reason why they were excited for Doc Ock.
In this one, it wasn't. I don't know if you tell anyone that Wesley Snipes is going to be there, they're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait!" You know,
it's more of just the novelty of knowing that they used to play these characters and now they're being included as like this sort of ragtag misfit toys type group.
Yes, yeah. So I really like that, and I like that they were like, hey, this is like what's going on. It's not where Spider-Man, he's trying to save everyone or do whatever he's doing. In this one, it's hey, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna be in here. You're gonna help us get out. Yeah. So you're staying here, and they join hands. So I like that sense of these cameos that came in. What did you think about Chris Evans?
I thought he was fun. I thought that he was a good. I honestly would have liked more of him as that character, but I don't know. I like the way his little kind of arc plays out.
Yeah.
And now the whole thing with like his skin being ripped off has been memed to death. I saw a couple memes before you came over.
Oh wow.
Of that specific image, just like on Facebook. I'm like, oh boy, this is grisly. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought he was integrated well.
Did you think he was Captain America when he landed?
I thought he was Captain America up until the point where like it hit that comedic beat of Deadpool thinks he's Captain America,
Yes.
and then I was like, oh, they're gonna pull some Fantastic Four shit. I just know it.
I totally forgot he was in that piece of shit movie.
I mean, so did most people watching this movie probably. Let's talk about Hugh Jackman. This is a movie where obviously, and I don't know if you've seen Logan. I actually watched it for the first time in preparation for this movie.
I watched Logan when it came out in the theaters.
Yeah. I really like Logan. I thought it was really good. And this is sort of the only part of the movie that has any amount of emotional weight and like actual dramatic heft to it.
Yeah.
With his character, because he plays it well.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a reason. Same thing we were saying about Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool. There's a reason why Hugh Jackman is so good as Wolverine. He's iconic. He's been doing it for like 2 fucking decades now, and I don't know. Like some people could say, "Oh, this is drawing out the legacy too much. Like you're tarnishing the reputation."
Yeah, I saw
of it.
someone say that. I don't.
But I mean, fuck, if Hugh Jackman wants to do it, then I don't have a problem with that. And if he wants to do it this way in which he gives a good performance and it's like, it actually has like some amount of effective emotional weight to it, then I say let him.
I don't know why people are dissing on it. I honestly don't.
There's
I don't
like
get
it's a
it.
small amount of people. Like most people that I've seen online do like this movie.
Yeah.
But there's always like some hand wringing around the idea of these characters coming back,
Which I don't get. It's like, how is this affecting you at all whatsoever?
I'm always a proponent of let's just see how it turns out, and if it's good, it's good. It's the same exact thing I was saying about RDJ as Dr. Doom, where
yeah.
let's just wait and see how it plays out, and if it's good, it's good, and if it's shit, let's call it shit.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I thought he was very passionate in this. Like I felt like he stepped in. From what I read, is he saw Deadpool and he wanted to bring back Wolverine and be with Ryan Reynolds.
Well,
I know that they're friends.
Yeah, and the comic book characters too also have that dynamic of like, Wolverine's always pissed off. Deadpool. They're both the same thing. Deadpool can't stop cracking jokes, and it creates this dynamic that's fun to watch.
There's a good juxtaposition there between the two.
And the idea that we could like have potentially missed out on that, I think was enough for them to go like, all right, we need to get something going, even if he's only in this one movie. We got to get Hugh Jackman back.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it works pretty well. I like their dynamic. I think it works to the movie's advantage that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds are friends in real life. I mean, fuck, they're always doing shit together.
There's passion, like you can kind of tell when people like I guess Willem Dafoe is probably a good example of sometimes, or maybe not him, but Gary Oldman, when he's passionless about it, he'll give you a good performance. But there's not any the personality and the character is just kind of somewhat unbelievable. Or you're not necessarily buying into what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. Where with this one, these two guys, I mean, it felt like we were just hanging out with two buddies that were these superheroes.
Yeah.
I don't think at any point. Now, granted, you don't see Ryan Reynolds' face a whole lot. You see Hugh Jackson's face pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
But like there's a clear separation that we're seeing the character play out. Mm-hmm. And I thought with these guys, them being buddies, them being friends and doing a project they actually want to do together. Like I really think that anytime that you get a film like that, you're gonna whether it's well written or not, well directed or not, you're gonna have some fun with it.
You're gonna have some good performances, some good banter.
They're fucking actors. Like imagine hanging out with an actor that wanted to do something. He's gonna put on a show.
Yeah,
you're gonna be entertained.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I mean, I thought this movie was fun. I'm just kind of going through, because like you, I kind of watched this movie a bit of time ago, so I'm just doing my best to recollect my overall thoughts on it. I feel like a lot of people are talking about Channing Tatum as Gambit and the passion that he had behind making that character, because I don't know if you know the full story of what that was about.
I think there was something in production that he was linked to, and he wanted to do it, and it fell through.
Ever since the first Deadpool movie came out, which I think was, 2017, right?
Somewhere in there.
2016?
Somewhere in there.
Ever since the first Deadpool film, Channing Tatum has been trying to make a Gambit movie for like almost like 7 years, 8 years or something like that, because he was passionate about the character, much like Ryan Reynolds was for Deadpool, and it was almost looking like it was going to happen over and over and over again. And then it just got stuck in development hell. It never got realized. The only on-screen version of Gambit that we had up until that point was in X-Men Origins Wolverine, where some other actor played the character. I don't remember his name, but he was, very much originified.
Yeah.
In that he just dressed in like normal clothes and the trench coat, kind of.
Yeah.
And he didn't even have like the Cajun accent or anything. But
hey, I'm Gambit.
I mean, it's kind of cool that they gave that character and Channing Tatum that little bit of spotlight to showcase his passion for it, even if it is sort of like played as a little bit of a joke, and it's sort of just this one time. I'm guessing. Like, I don't know if they're gonna bring him back ever, but
no,
I don't know.
It.
He was fun. I liked how goofy he was, and I also liked just the dynamic he brought to the movie.
I think, yeah. I mean, the stale performances for me would have been
Wesley Snipes
and Jennifer Garner.
Sure, they're a little, especially Jennifer Garner is a little self-serious in the movie.
Yeah,
like it almost feels like she's not entirely part of the joke, but I don't know. I didn't mind it too much.
It just felt stale, and it might have just been because, she's playing a little bit of an off-brand or off-color to what everyone else is doing. Like you said, not a part of the joke. So
right,
it came off not very enthusiastic. But
yeah, we've been talking pretty positive about this movie. Was there anything you had as far as like gripes or anything that was giving you some hang-ups with this movie?
The two things for me. One would have been the kind of just the ending of it. We have to do the self-sacrifice. We're gonna do this. We have to put the weight of the world. Like, I don't know if they're.
This movie is severely lacking any tension because.
Oh yeah, I mean
not that it like needs a ton of tension, because at the end of the day, it is like a comedy superhero movie.
That's what I'm saying. So like play into that aspect of it, And I if they would have made it a little bit more, everything in this thing is so self-referential. If they would have made it a little bit more like that at the end, wink and the nod of, hey, you already know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. They play with the genre a little bit more.
Yeah, and honestly though, I mean, they could have been going with the way of this might be the last one. So I don't know. That was the only thing that I was like, nah. It was whatever. It wasn't distracting or like, man, this is awful. Like, it still plays out fine. That, and then just how much we're clubbed to death with just breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah,
of the time
it
joke.
Is one of those movies where, because Ryan Reynolds is so witty all the time, it is rapid fire jokes being thrown at you left and right.
Yeah.
And, some of those jokes, they do hit. Like, I was having a fun time in theater laughing pretty consistently. But then there are other times where it's just like, okay, that didn't quite land for me.
That's why I want to check it out again, just to see some of the things I missed, or at least be able to pause the movie and like look up what he's exactly referencing to.
Yeah, it's not like something like The Holdovers where you watch that movie and it's like, okay, they're like sparsing their jokes out a little bit more, but almost every single one of those jokes seems like it lands pretty hard.
Yeah.
And then with this movie, it's just like a machine gun of jokes being fired at your head.
Yeah.
And not all the bullets are getting into your skull.
No, but it what I will say though, it makes it fun, and as long as they're not like too off-putting or like, it's 60% of those jokes have to land, or else it just becomes, repetitive.
Yeah.
Redundant. So.
Absolutely. What's your relationship with the previous two Deadpool movies? Because I I watched them for the first time like a couple years ago, I think. Deadpool 1, I think, was sort of I don't know. It's one of those things where like it does have a lot of jokes, but it is also kind of like grimy looking and very like sort of gray and dark still.
Yep.
Like it almost feels like Deadpool was like hanging out in the gutter.
Yes.
A bunch.
Well, that's sort of his persona, right?
Kind of, but
being
like
in the mercenary and the.
It still felt like it was stuck in that world of like the Fox X-Men sort of thing, where like it had like this tone of self-seriousness, but then you throw Deadpool in there and it makes it very silly. It's kind of like that Beverly Hills Cop thing where like Eddie Murphy thinks that he's in a comedy movie and everyone else is like in an actual like action cop drama.
Boogie Nights, yeah.
Whereas I don't really remember a ton of stuff about the second movie. I remember
one's all right.
I did not like it nearly as much as the first. Well, like I don't know. The first one I thought was okay, and then the second one I thought was like, I could tell while I'm watching this, I'm not going to remember a ton about this. And I don't know, just like there was really not a cohesive narrative or story. I felt like there really wasn't like a conventional third act structure to like piece this all together. It kind of felt like a shambled together school project.
Ryan Reynolds, I think, and I don't know if he had someone write it with him, but I did see that he did the rewrite for Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
So that could be where we see more of the. There's a lot of there's more self-referencing in that one than in the first one. The first one is kind of like you feel like
the first one he's just kind of making japes. Like he's not being that referential with things. It's more just jokes along the lines of like, oh, I see you brought your brown pants, you know,
breaking the fourth wall. Like he definitely is like kind of coming out of the movie, and it's like, hey, I'm going to sit with you this whole time, and you know that I'm talking to you. The second one played into that a lot more, but I think he tried to bring out a lot more humor.
I think the second one's where the line, oh, that's just shitty writing, comes from. So if that like exemplifies the type of writing style that the second one has compared to the first, then I think that's it. You know,
it's really. I mean, I've seen the second one once or maybe twice, and like I don't remember anything about it. First one was pretty refreshing because that was coming out of the time where, you had the Avengers going on.
Yeah,
and you know there was a lot of the superhero stuff, and it was it was more lighthearted with the superhero stuff, and it wasn't necessarily like comic book panels come to life.
And it was also one of the first sort of big budget comic book superhero movies since like the early 2000s to embrace the R rating of it.
Yes, and that comes with Reynolds kind of stepping away, saying we're not going to. He wasn't he didn't save us from Thanos or whoever. I don't know if I could say that or not. Save the world.
Yes.
He's more of a guy like smaller stakes.
He's sort of like, at least in the first movie, he's kind of like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man that way, weirdly enough. Yeah. Where like you've got your own little personal conflict that you're dealing with, but it's not like you have to fucking save the planet.
Yeah, so that it provides a lot more humor within there.
I think, to me personally, and this is just a preferential thing, I think Deadpool works almost the best when he is being his silly, goofy-ass self. Very sarcastic, very high energy. When he is sort of surrounded by more serious things. Because then he can like bring that sort of humor to it, and it makes it feel like it has more of an impact, you know?
Chocolate and peanut butter.
Whereas like, if you put him in an environment where like everyone's making jokes and there's all sorts of shit going on, then it almost feels like he can kind of get diluted through the noise.
That's what I think happened in the second one.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we're trying to make everyone really funny, and all of this is going to be somewhat not serious.
That's why his dynamic with Hugh Jackman works so well, because you get the serious and the silly. Yeah. I think there's still a little bit of that in this movie that carries over from the second one, but I don't think it's as severe.
I agree, but I think it's more so with him and everyone else around him giving, hey, this is real shit going on. And he's the one that's kind of pointing out all the flaws with the world and, making jokes about all this and that. So I think it played well. The tone remained consistent throughout the whole film. And you didn't have people that were just hopping in. Like when the 3 cameos come in, that was really easy. Like imagine if those three were playing how, Chris Evans was playing it. Then it would have been kind of like, oh my God, more of the same.
Yeah.
Where they were kind of like, hey, we're going to help you out. We're going to do this because we are superheroes. And, he's trying to give them their ending. So I thought, I really did think that it meshed well. It created an entertaining, fun environment throughout for 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Yeah, it was a good time. I had people in my theater laughing. It wasn't like super full or anything, but it was enough to where like, okay, this is like a fun environment to be in. What did you think of? I think her name is Daphne Keane, who played X-23. In Logan.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that they ended up having to spoil for the movie. Like, they sort of just kind of revealed it right before it came out because the actress wanted to go to the red carpet premiere.
Oh.
And then because she was there, people are like, oh, is she in the movie? And then they had to go, yeah, she's in the she's returning as X-23.
Yeah.
Which, one of the more, like, emotionally weightful scenes is her dialogue between her character and Wolverine. Which, I don't know, I thought it was good. I thought it was like a nice little sort of nod to Logan, because there's some people, again, there's like a small portion of viewers out there who see this movie and they think, oh, this is disrespectful to Logan's legacy, and this is blah, blah, blah. First of all, it's a fucking movie. Like,
yeah, go sit on a brick.
Maybe we need to go to the beach.
Yeah.
But then, second of all, there is a scene in this where, like, yeah, it feels like it is more so like paying tribute to that movie and what it did for those characters.
I think so. I really, is that the campfire scene that you're referencing?
Yeah, where they're sitting by the fire.
Yeah, I think, and so it's kind of funny too that you think about these two films where all the Avengers stuff just kind of feels like it's in a blender. Where these two are pretty much like, if Deadpool hadn't come out, this could have been the second one. And if it was 7 years after the fact, kind of like how it is with Logan, both of them you could say are standalone films, and they're fine films.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Especially considering like the X-Men timeline is as fucked as it is.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, out of all those films, Logan's probably the one that I would put on first. And it's really hard to even say that that's like you feel like that's an X-Men film, But I did appreciate how they used that and played into it a little bit and was like, hey, we're not going to piss on your grave. Obviously what's happened.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun at the expense of it, but we're not going to it's not going to tarnish the legacy.
Or totally disregard what you had set forth,
Right,
and I think they did a good job trying to keep talking about like, hey, this is a different Logan. It's a different Wolverine. It's a different guy,
I liked the montage of him going to different dimensions to find the right Wolverine.
Yeah.
To help him out with this, because you get some like fun little jokes here and there. They have a comic book accurate height representation of Wolverine, where he just kind of steps off the stool and he's a little shorter, and it's funny.
Yeah.
The Henry Cavill cameo was quite something.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize that wasn't Hugh Jackman at first.
It took me I knew it wasn't Hugh Jackman, but it took me a bit of time to recognize it was Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's fucking huge.
Yeah.
He's a beefcake. Oh my god.
Well, you see that in one of the Mission Impossible films.
Yeah, I think he does. I think I read somewhere, and I didn't pick it up during the movie, but he does the same thing where he like cocks his arms and he has the claws come out.
Yeah.
He like reloads his biceps and then just fucking charges forward. So, I don't know. That was funny. If I ever rewatch this, I'll have to look out for that.
There are so many Easter eggs in this thing, too, which I really liked. It wasn't like, we're going to make this, really plot, like a thick plot. Like, we're going to have as much fun as we can throwing in all these other things, too. Like, it's almost like you're going through like a carnival ride.
Yeah.
I keep talking, I know I referenced it last time with Twisters, but this one actually feels like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's that? Oh, what's this? And you're still going on the same ride, so you're going to get whatever emotional weight you're going to have, like, watching the thing. But at the same token, you're able to kind of, like, look around and enjoy what's happening around
Scorsese was right. It is a theme park.
Oh, well, I mean, some movies I talk about like that. The Godfather, I wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, this movie is not going to be like a fucking... I mean, we were talking about The Lighthouse before we recorded.
Yes.
It's not going to be like a Robert Eggers period piece film. I mean, I feel like it is sort of in that category of, yeah, you're going to go to the theater, you're going to have sort of like a fun time. You can have your criticisms about it, but at the end of the day, it's like there is like this almost like responsibility of being aware of the type of movie you're watching and like not going in with like the wrong expectations of it.
That's what I talk about with. We've had those conversations before, like the Mario movie. You know, I mean, but yes, that's it. They come in all different shapes and sizes. You know.
Yeah, they're like penises.
Yeah, Robert Eggers. Not his penis.
No.
You know, but I mean, like, it's, you know, a movie doesn't have to be The Godfather to make it like a great movie or a fantastic
Or just
movie.
like a fun time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, that's what we kind of talked about when we were talking about movie ratings before. I mean, like when we first very started it, you know, with the hyperbole concept or whatever you want to talk about or view it as. Yeah, this thing is, I thought it set out and it captured what it intended to capture. Mm-hmm. I really do. I don't think there's any stone unturned in this thing that you'd have been like, I wish that would have been in here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, unless you can think of anything that you would have liked to have seen in this thing that didn't happen.
I mean, I don't think so. This is a movie, and there is one thing I will kind of like touch on, and it's not really a gripe. It's just sort of like an acknowledgement of like, oh, they included this in the movie. Like, I think the TVA is like a heavy plot point in the Loki show.
Yes.
Which I haven't seen. I don't know if you've ever.
I've seen it. It's very.
What's the comparison? Is there like is there a through line there, or is there like is this kind of its own thing?
No, they're the same thing. What they do is they clean up timelines, and so you had the multiverse get created, and the idea behind the TVA is that kind of like what happened in one of the Avenger films when they talk about timelines diminishing or
Endgame.
Yeah, where they're like, if you take this stone out of this timeline, then this universe or this parallel universe is going to be stripped, and it's going to complete a completely different alternate reality than what should have happened, right? Yeah. So they play into the sense of like, you know, not necessarily God, because I know in the Marvel universe there's like the Timekeeper or something like that.
Yeah,
that's in one of the they do. Anyways, so the TVA is somewhat accurately presented in this one. They really do a great job of dumbing it down. Like in the Loki,
they dumb it the hell down in this movie.
I mean, but you have to. Like in Loki, it takes 8 series for them to kind of like get to that point, and it's funny because Kang is in, I think, Loki.
Yeah, he's like the in the shadows bad guy.
Yeah,
I think, right?
Yeah, they're trying to set up so they
which
can,
I mean,
exactly. That's why I was about to say spoiler, but it's like whatever, he's done now.
You done, kid.
Yeah. So they did a good job with the TVA and really making it so that you could understand it. Like, you know, at least get the general gist of this is what they do. So when he was talking about clipping a timeline, it was, hey, this event happened. It's now creating an alternate reality, or this thing's going on a different track. We have to end this thing before it gets loose. Something else pops up, and now you got someone hopping from this timeline to the next timeline and affecting other timelines, you know, which is their whole idea. That's why they're the Time Variance Association, or so that they can make sure that when things go awry, they can step in.
I wonder how, and this is sort of branching off that, I wonder how they're going to be able to integrate Deadpool into future MCU movies.
Did you happen to stay for the final?
I did. Well, the one with Chris Evans.
Yeah.
And that whole like bada bing bada boom. I think what they'll do, and this is something that I also saw someone else say, is that they're gonna have him pop up in some of the movies with other characters. He's gonna be fourth wall breaking, acknowledge the fact that he's in a PG-13 movie. They'll assign him the one fuck that the movie's allowed.
Yeah.
And then it'll be like a point. And then that'll be like the function of the character, along with like him being restricted to like PG-13 antics, potentially.
Yeah, I don't
know. I feel like when you have a character like this, especially when the movie literally just crossed $1 billion today as of this recording, you're going to want to integrate him into whatever you can.
I think he'll have like a Tony Stark kind of thing, like in the Spider-Man stuff. Maybe even lesser than that.
I could see him being in future Spider-Man movies just because I'm
not saying Spider-Man. I'm just saying his role as like a cameo or
sure.
You know, like
he sort of like comes and goes. Like,
yeah, like we're going to build up. They're building up a new, I guess, a Secret Wars is potentially something that they're trying to strive towards.
Yeah.
And having him a part of that. So like if other Marvel properties are coming out, I think they'll try to keep reminding people, hey, don't forget, or maybe not. I don't know. They could go, an Ant-Man route with it. I don't really know.
The only reason I bring up Deadpool and Spider-Man is because I think they also have like a comic book dynamic with each other.
Yeah.
Where like, Spider-Man's obviously sort of like this younger, impressionable character, and Deadpool's sort of like the bad influence uncle that comes along.
You know what? My gripe with it was someone's like, I'm tired of the whole multiverse and these, all this shit going on with it. Like, you ended something, have it end, go somewhere else with it, start in that universe. It doesn't have to be, and it's like, I'm like, I like that you can have a Deadpool and a Tom Holland movie, like and you throw it in a different universe, so it can be like, one of the, not to get into the whole Star Wars stuff, but Rogue One was an event that took place, standalone film about one event. And it fits in with the rest of the other movies because of what it created or what it intended to do. You can have that with all this stuff. You get Deadpool hanging out with Spider-Man. Deadpool versus the Hulk. There's so many other scenarios that they can take with this, and they can branch off with it, so that way they can have standalone films and yet still maintain the universe of what we're trying to do, as opposed to like having to completely rewrite everything, or come up with remember when the Hulk did this? Like, I don't know. I like it. I like that they have a million options to do whatever they want to do, because they can make these movies really fun. And if it's going to be as fun, like other Marvel movies are as fun as this one, or even close to it, we're good.
So what I'm gathering from you is a future episode covering all 9 Star Wars movies plus the spin-offs. Is that what I'm picking up from you? I think that's what you're proposing. I'm all for it. Let's do it. Let's call it right now. Episode 100, Star Wars-a-thon.
There we go. Yeah, episode 100.
Yeah. You're like, that's far enough away in the future where I don't have to deal with it right now.
Yeah.
Was there any other thoughts you had on this? I think I'm good to move on to the next film.
Yeah, it's such a hard one to critique, because I think they had the drawing book, from 1 to 100 on create an image, and I think they hit every dot.
Yeah. Cool. I think I'm good to give my rating then. So, sort of like touching on that idea of the enjoyment scale versus like the film scale. Mm-hmm. My enjoyment level, I would probably give this a high 8. My actual rating for this, I have it at like a high 7.
Okay.
I think it's a fun time. I think it's definitely one that you kind of have to go into with a certain set of expectations. I mean, you're going to see a Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
There's like a thing there, but at the same time, I am curious about how this movie will age in terms of the jokes. It's one of those movies where, like, yes, not all the jokes are gonna land. There is sort of like that idea of, okay, if everyone's sort of silly, then there's like no weight to it. But at the same time, this movie doesn't necessarily need to have the most tension in the world. I had a fun time. I think Ryan Reynolds plays the character well. It's cool to see Hugh Jackman being able to play a comic accurate version of the character. Not that I'm like a huge comic book nerd or anything, but yes, high 7 out of 10. That's where I'm at.
Nice. I had this when I got out of the movie theater. I was like, I just don't feel like I can give this a high score. So I had it as an 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. And touching on how we talked about like a film for what it's intended to be. This thing is intended to be fun. It's not necessarily driven by the plot, but more so by the character dynamics and the partnership that we have with Wolverine and Deadpool and their sort of shenanigans, if you will. At no point I could take my eyes off the screen. I think I might have had to go to the bathroom. I was like, I'm just going to wait, because if the whole thing's to catching jokes. So I actually have this as this is a 9 out of 10.
Oh, damn.
Well, I think at over time it would get bumped down to an 8.
Gotcha.
Like Logan's a film that I think it's steadfast in where I have it ranked as, because it's a standalone film. It's got great writing, great characters, and a unique perspective.
I really like the tone of Logan.
Yeah, this one feels much like you saying. Like, I think I said it would age well, but now I'm thinking about it, I was like, I could see this thing aging a little poorly. Not necessarily to the point where it's like I can't watch this.
Sure.
Just to the point where I'd bump it down to an 8. So right now I got a 9 out of 10, but I reserve the right to change my opinion.
Yeah, let it sit in the fridge for a bit, and then we'll come back to it. Speaking of fridge, I can't wait to dive into my pizza that I have in there. Oh, boy.
That sounds delicious.
Speaking of pizza, I think Rainn Wilson's character in this movie has a diet of only pizza and Mountain Dew. And that character is Frank Darbo in the film Super. Okay, let's do this.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh boy,
I want to see where you get, because I might be able to hop in, or I might be a contrasting opinion. I don't know.
I'd be so fucking curious. All right, let's see. So this is film's called Super. It's a black comedy superhero film written and directed by James Gunn. It is his second superhero movie that he made. I don't remember the name of the first one. It came out in like early 2000s and was also super low budget. But this is starring Rainn Wilson as Frank Darbo, who is a fry cook whose girlfriend, played by Liv Tyler, is taken, for lack of a better word, by Kevin Bacon's character Jacques, who you find out is sort of a nefarious character. He's a drug dealer. He clearly is taking advantage of Liv Tyler being a former drug addict and then sort of bringing her back into that world. And then Rainn Wilson decides to take on the identity of the Crimson Bolt.
Yes.
A superhero that he sort of makeshifts into a costume. He wears it, and then he beats people with a pipe wrench. Eventually, he comes across Elliot Page, who plays Libby, and they sort of play like his kid sidekick. Bolty. Yeah, spoilers for Super. Although I'm going to say right now, this is one of those cases where I don't know if I would encourage people to watch this before diving into our discussion, because I think you could probably listen to this and maybe save yourself. Yeah. I did not like this movie at all.
No?
I kind of fucking hated it.
Oh, no.
I thought this movie is super fucking dated. I did not like the sense of humor. I thought that the characters, I could not get behind any of what they were doing. Which, I mean, I guess this is sort of like, you know, it came out the same year as Kick-Ass did. So it's one of those, like, responses to superhero movies where it's like, oh, superhero movies are, like, kind of fun and lighthearted. Let's go the other way with it and show, like, these real guys trying to be vigilantes and have it sort of be, like, more
this one
violent.
Was kind of fun and lighthearted.
I don't know. We'll get into it, but...
Yeah, I'm kind of now I'm thinking. I think we might have differing opinions on it.
I think we might. I did not like
I'm
this
not
movie.
gonna. I will say this. All right, if you want to know where I was at watching this thing,
Yes.
I was texting my brother about the bike riders throughout this thing. I had a hard time relating or gravitating towards anything Rainn Wilson was doing.
Gotcha.
So his character and I was thinking about it. I don't know if it was more I sympathized with him than empathized. So it was very hard to get behind everything that was going on. But that being said, I did think that there was a arc with this character, and I mean we'll probably touch on everything that happens in the film. But yeah, it's bizarre. It was weird. Jasmine was watching it with me, kind of peeking up at times. She said it was interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not an inaccurate way of describing this movie.
I think it could be interesting in the sense that it's good, or it could be interesting in the sense that how the fuck did this get made? You know?
I'm more of in that second camp.
Yeah.
So really my biggest issue, and I said this previously, was I don't like the sense of humor. I think that it is just like a deeply unfunny movie where the jokes are just sort of reminiscent of that like early 2010s type of like lol can I has cheeseburger type shit, where it's like it's very edgy. It feels like I'm sort of like watching an old nostalgic like YouTube sketch comedy video.
Yeah, it's
where
weird.
Like the characters are just going around saying like the most random shit. Like Elliot Page is diving behind a counter going like, oh man, how fucked up would it be if I was a midget, you know? Oh man,
yeah,
you couldn't do anything. And it's like, oh boy, like I don't know, to me it's like super poorly aged. I don't like a lot of the things that happen in this movie, and I just like I could not find that much enjoyment out of it. I like the idea of it being about this guy who is a loser. Because, like, you watch Kick-Ass and it's like, okay, clearly Aaron Taylor Johnson is, like, in good shape. He's able to, like, perform as, like, a vigilante. Whereas, like, this one, it's, okay, he's a bumbling fucking idiot that's out of shape and has, like, this shitty-ass costume and just has a pipe wrench. Like, there's something sort of appealing about that. It's sort of why I recommended this movie, right?
Yeah.
And then I watch this movie and it's like, the characters are just screaming. It's one of those movies where I feel like they think loud equals funny, and not a fan of that. Not a fan of that type of dynamic.
Yeah, I didn't really laugh at that. I think that's why it was like at points drifting watching the movie.
Sure.
Some of the humor I laughed out loud numerous times. I thought that some of the stuff was funny, and some of it was like aged poorly. Like some of the comedic elements were of the time, a little bit. Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, the lulz thing. I don't really, and maybe it's just because I wasn't on Reddit at that time. Yeah,
it just felt like, you remember the sort of like controversy that James Gunn was in, where like before I think it was Guardians 3 was going to be made.
Yeah,
people were like, "Oh, we found his Twitter where like he makes these weird, crass jokes about pedophiles and shit.
Yeah,
let's fire him." And watching this movie, it kind of makes sense that this is the type of guy that would make those jokes.
Yeah, see, that's
not that I thought he should have been fired or anything. Like, I think, obviously he changed and grew as a person. But, like, I don't know. When you have a character who, like, saves a kid from being diddled in a car, and then the kid has the line where he says, like, I wrote it down, so let me pull this up real quick. He says, what a great and sick F word. Where he says like the gay slur or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like, what am I watching here? This is so like of the time.
Crass is a way to describe it.
Crass. I don't know. I don't think it would be inaccurate for me to say that the humor of this movie is quite juvenile. And if you laughed at certain parts, then I applaud it. I'm glad you were able to find something in it, because I don't know, man.
They took a cartoon like it. See, the problem that I kind of have with it, or some of the humor watching older films, is where we've come to as a society now. So you reflect back, or you're watching some of the stuff, and it is a little bit spine tingling, if you will. Like, ooh, that didn't age well. That doesn't sit right.
Yeah.
But at the time in 2010, all that stuff was not necessarily fine and dandy, but there
was an acceptance to it.
Yeah,
it's like
he didn't really. It's not proposed in a very serious nature, So there is some sort of element where we're kind of making a little bit of joke about it. Now there's a couple things like that, and then there's a rape scene that happened, which I don't know if I was supposed to laugh at it or not. That had me laughing out loud quite a bit.
Oh boy. There's 3 different rape scenes in this, by the way. The one where he's like not fantasizing, but he's imagining what life in prison would be like, and then there's that quick shot of like him getting butt fucked. There's the Elliot Page scene.
That made me laugh too. I mean, when he's like doing the irrational thinking with the cop, because he has so much anxiety going on about answering the door, and so like
him imagining prison.
Dude, it was he went through the whole thing. The guy walks in. I mean, it was like everything that you do before you walk in. It's like, should I pay for this? Should I do this? And like all of a sudden you just have like, holy shit, I'm going to end up in jail. So I mean, he had a whole thought process run through his head on that I laughed at that quite a bit.
And then you've got the Elliot Page couch rape scene. And then you've got the one with Liv Tyler where like the drug dealer is about to rape her.
Yeah.
Or like is in the process of raping her. And I'm just sitting there like, am I supposed to find this funny? Like,
I don't think that last one you were, because even
the last one definitely not, but like the I don't know. I had such an issue with the Elliot Page scene where it's like,
did you?
Well,
see, that's what I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh at that or not. And that's why I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, when Elliot Page has the line, "Oh, it's all gushy," I'm meant to think that this is supposed to be comedic, and I don't know. I feel like if the roles were reversed, it would just be even more jarring, just because of like how we view these dynamics socially. Yes.
And to me, that's just another thing of this movie where like, okay, this is like very much of the time where like you could watch a movie like this then and like there's really no like weird feelings about it. But now you watch it and it's like I don't like it. I have an issue with it. That's just inherently a part of it.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I don't know if I should be laughing at this or not. And that's the problem with what's going on with it. I don't know. I mean, I thought it took some of the things that we view as a society, flipped it on its head, put it in like not necessarily a gray area, but like, are you really supposed to be laughing at this or not? So at the time, it might have been funny, but now I just view it as like, oh, this is one of those reverse things that people talk about actually happening, and how you're supposed to feel about it or what's supposed to go on. I mean, there could be some hand wringing about it now.
Definitely from my part.
And so I was about to say and that's why I'm like watching this. I was like, I don't know. I feel like he's getting raped here, but also like the whole situation and the environment. I mean, with them being, obviously she wasn't turned on by Frank Darabont about him as a Crimson Bolt, but then it plays into, is this the dual identity that I'm turned on by? Is this the person that you're impersonating, or is it you that I'm actually doing this to? And then with him, sticking by his wife and saying all those things. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was humorous. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, that's fine. I'm not gonna judge you at all. Like it's different strokes, but man, I could not gel with it.
No, if she had done that at like the I don't know. I mean, it's just a situation as a whole because it plays into some sort of the dual identity about what's going on in these superheroes and trying to masquerade as one person and they're portraying someone completely different.
Sure. I think a big issue I have with it that I can pinpoint is the scene that's right before it where they're in the garage and they have the conversation of like,
there's a line I really like
where Libby's going like, oh, how I thought it was supposed to be exciting. The comic books are always so exciting, and this was so boring. And then Rainn Wilson says something like, well, that's the stuff between the panels. And then Libby goes, is that where we are? Are we in between the panels? Sort of like...
I thought that was a fun line.
I mean, it's not like the worst line, but it's sort of signifying like, oh, is there like some romantic feeling here now? Like, is this something that I'm supposed to pick up on? And then immediately to me, it's undercut by the next scene of like her and going in and like forcing herself on him.
He said, it was cut right then and there. He goes, I'm married. I'm not making out with you.
He tried to cut it, and then she came at him with like, "Oh, it's all gushy." It's like,
she put on her identity. She became Bolty. That's what I'm saying. Like the dual identity of what's going on between, and I think that's what James Gunn was kind of playing into is that these people are supposed to be. Are they separated or are they the same? Is Batman really Bruce Wayne when he's got the costume on?
I don't know. I feel like I didn't pick up on that as much. I mean, credit to you for doing that. I don't know. I feel like the movie didn't do a good enough job of attempting that for me to not feel gross about that scene.
Well, I think it played into the whole thing with him turning into the Crimson Bolt. I think that's what it was kind of signifying is like you don't have to have superpowers to be a superhero, right? And that Frank Darabont is a loser and that the Crimson Bolt can stop crime when really they're the same person.
Sure.
So you're looking at some of the other superheroes with what's going on between Iron Man or Batman or whoever it may be that doesn't have like magical powers, and that's just they're people. Is it the identity of duality? I mean, is it a completely different person? What are we looking at here? And I think they played, to me at least, that's why I laughed at it, is that they were playing into that joke where Libby, I felt like, was obviously attracted to Frank, and then she just was like, hey, we're different people now. And then he's like, I'm still Frank, get off me, and it was, and it's unfortunate that's like on the other side of what rape is,
I mean, another big issue too is like just the age gap is so big between them. Like Rainn Wilson is, I looked it up, 57. Elliot Page is 36. So there's like nearly 20 years difference between the two.
Yeah, some of the lovemaking scenes I just don't ever. I guess I don't really care because I'm like there's a scene with Liv Tyler and him, and I'm like, I don't think that would. That was happen.
Also, I just felt uncomfortable for Liv Tyler. I'm like, oh, what are you having this poor woman do?
Well, that's why.
Because like the whole movie, I'm thinking to myself, like, how the fuck did he get her? Like, how did he get Liv Tyler to be with him? And then it's sort of like, you get like flashback scenes sort of explaining why. But then there's also like this idea of like, oh, she's just with him because she thinks he can save her. And then one of the few things I do kind of like about this movie is that like it doesn't stay with him. when he saves her. Like,
Yeah.
it's sort of acknowledging the idea of like, not like one person is going to fix me. Like, this is sort of something that I just kind of have to get through and deal with and learn on my own. And, you know, there's an attempt of that there, and I recognize it, and I do like the idea of it, but I don't know, it just felt so poorly handled to me overall.
I mean, it's a 90-minute film, and he's got to save her, so I don't think they can get a whole lot of that. How did this guy hook up with this gal?
Sure.
You know,
and it was a low budget film. It was 2.5 million. So, like, you know, not like fucking indie movie Amateur Hour or anything, but, you know, there's like a lower budget there.
Oh, this all probably the actors that they were paying to be in this thing. They all had to pay him to scale. I bet you a crap ton of that budget went to just paying the actors.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I thought the backstory was fine, and they both reminisce in their unhappiness, and they both could see each other. I mean, there's a lot of relationships that I've seen of people that are just not happy, and they get along together, and they can both kind of celebrate or confide in each other with that feeling. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have an issue with that whatsoever, and I mean, it kind of like not necessarily believable, but I mean, sometimes, not to say crazy gals, but people that are struggling with some of that stuff really see someone else that's on
someone who's like codependent, like
and for a while they can at least find each other in there, and then after some time it's obviously they're
like looking for some stability, and they might be able to find it temporarily somewhere.
That's why I was completely fine with it. I was like, that's the only thing that you could come up with to have Liv Tyler with
sure
him.
But then the other thing is that like her character is not really that much of a character.
No,
like she is literally just a plot device that is used to motivate Frank, and that is one of the bigger issues I have with this as well, is that like she's just there to be dependent on him and then sort of be manipulated by Kevin Bacon, who I don't think is doing a bad job in the movie. But then she is literally a damsel in distress that needs to be saved.
How did they get Kevin Bacon on the thing? He was he read the script and like hopped in. I read some trivia on this thing. Anyways, they were supposed to get Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
I kind of like that Kevin Bacon's playing the character.
Dude, I love it. Hey man, you made eggs? These are the best fucking eggs I've ever had. You got a real egg gift, my man.
Despite my gripes with it, Rainn Wilson is playing the character well. I mean, I think there's a reason why that sort of era of time was sort of trying to push him as like a pseudo Jack Black of like, look at how much of a loser this guy is. Yeah. But then you've got Kevin Bacon who comes in, and I think he might be the best performance in the movie.
Oh yeah, with that, I liked. I mean, he's the only one that had any personality. I mean, he says it right at the very end.
I don't know. Libby has quite a lot of personality in this movie.
That's like what you were saying. Loud doesn't equal funny or whatever.
There's another thing. She was fucking obnoxious in this movie. And I coined it as like a manic pixie nightmare girl, because that character was just so fucking grating and annoying, and I guess that's sort of like the point. But at the same time, it's like I don't care when this character gets shot in the head later. Like I don't care when Libby dies, because I'm just looking for an excuse for this character get taken out of this movie. And then when you show me like beforehand a scene of her like raping Frank, it's like, oh well, like I'm even less sympathetic towards them now.
I don't know if I think her point was just to be side character. Like you're just gonna they didn't really do a great introduction with her anyway. No, so and then you knew that she wasn't gonna have much of a.
There's supposed to be the emotional weight of like, oh shit, she got shot. Frank is supposed to respond to this in a very like emotionally powerful way, and it's like I just don't believe it, especially with the scenes we're given before. I just don't believe it.
I think it was more so of him actually seeing death on the other side. Like I think that's how I took it, at least. It wasn't necessarily an emotional connection for him. It was more so of this is turning into real life, as opposed like you're not a superhero, dude. Like, and I know I felt like when he got shot in the leg, it was supposed to have that effect, but he obviously was not phased.
Sure. I wanted him to have more consequences. I wanted him to like really experience the weight of what he was doing to other people. Because, like, someone cuts in front of you in line, and I do kind of like how over the top it was, but someone cuts in front of you in line, and you, like, nearly kill them, it's like how the fuck did the police not catch him?
Oh, dude, he's driving away his red car every time.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I think it's playing into some of the ludicrous nature of, you know, Tony Stark driving, like, flying away.
Superheroes.
Yeah, like it's satirical, you know?
Sure. I feel like they maybe could have also played into it while still having it be like grounded and realistic that way. Like the movie sort of saying like, hey, yeah, this isn't fucking how it works. This guy would have been arrested like the second time he attacked somebody. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like,
yeah,
there's things that I wish this movie would have done that I think could have made it a lot more just on the target with what it was trying to do. Because is it trying to be like a black comedy satire of superheroes, or is it trying to be like this sort of grounded look at what would happen if a fucking schizophrenic maniac went around and started hitting people?
You're on the second approach. I'm on the first approach. That's where I think watching it probably was the differing sides of how we viewed it.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah, I think I'll tell you the two things in this movie that I actually liked wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Fucking Nathan Fillion as the Holy Avenger.
I love the Holy Avenger stuff.
I thought those scenes were genuinely good and funny.
They were very humorous, yeah.
Like, I liked him as that character. I liked how shitty of a production it looked. Like, it looked like they were just filming in an actual, like, just abandoned classroom. Like, just one room with, like, the fucking foam tiles and everything. And I love how, like, clearly the kids are just, like, 30 years old.
Yeah.
And it hits you over the head with it, but I kind of like how obvious it is. Because, yes, something like that being displayed in that obvious of a way is humorous to me. I like him as the Holy Avenger. I thought he was fun.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I liked is there's one joke that I laughed at, and it was the one where Libby's in the kitchen with Frank, and she's inviting him to the apartment party, and then she like keeps being annoying and bugging him, and Frank goes like, all right, I need you to go. We're really busy out there. And then it wide cuts, and there's like barely anyone in the fucking restaurant. And I thought that was a funny joke. I laughed at that. I was like, okay, that was good. I literally said out loud, okay, I thought that joke was well landed.
Yeah.
Everything else, not a fan of. Don't like this movie. I think it fucking sucks.
Yeah, I don't know about sucks. I'm on a little bit of a different page level with it. So I did like the Holy Avenger stuff. I also I had a good laugh when he comes in. You've been touched by the tiniest tip on the tiniest tip of the hand of God, and most people could not understand what that means.
I thought it was literally a penis that was coming down from the sky.
I did too until that showed another. You could see a fingernail. I'm like, oh, it's the finger of God, and then like it just does that little, and then he pops up. I was like, oh, some of the stuff, the satire in it. There's another movie that I thought about recommending, and I'm not going to do it. It's called God Bless America.
Okay.
Came around the same time. Satire of the violence that we crave with TV and stuff going on. And I think it's also set in the same tone of somewhat of a grounded approach, but obviously satirical, you know? So it didn't sit well with me. And this one was kind of bordering along those lines.
Sure.
You know, but I took it a different way. Now, I'm not going to say that this is a great film.
No, you're not gonna like hold it on like a big pedestal or anything.
No, and I don't, you know.
But there are things you like about it that I just was not able to see.
Well, I mean, it's just like you said. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think unless you walk in with your fucking like, oh, they fucked up Logan, you know, you're gonna walk in and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's the everything going on with the thing is just fun, right? This isn't necessarily intended, I think it's supposed to be like dark humor fun, you know, where you can kind of look at it and get behind a little bit. You know, like I would say, you know, kind of indie fun, I guess. Like it's a different approach. So no, I don't think there's anything that I'm gonna hang my hat on with it. But
yeah,
there was a couple fun, you know, I could see why James Gunn got the Guardians gig after seeing this. And I can see why, and I'm really happy that happened because Guardians is another one of the refreshing films in the Avengers timeline, like when it came out. Mm-hmm. That really, I mean, changed kind of the timeline of the rest of the films and how they were going to be made. And he did a very good job with that and putting it in a more lighthearted nature than what this one does. But You know, yeah. What do you think about the ending? That's the one I'm curious about.
I mean, I think I don't know. Like the suspension of disbelief just sort of went out the window when he started like shooting everyone, and then there is like the whole attempted rape scene with Liv Tyler that I was not a fan of. So
not that ending. No, I'm not.
But you're talking about the ending where like Frank's monologuing, and you find out that like, oh, you know, she stayed with him for a few months out of obligations. Like, I don't know. I think it's at the very least appropriate for the type of movie that we saw before. Yeah. Like, okay, this is sort of just like the natural progression of what would take place, I guess. I thought for sure they were going to set him up with Linda Cardellini, who literally shows up for only 30 seconds in this movie as like a pet store clerk.
Oh, yeah.
Because she showed up. And I recognized her. I was like, oh, shit, that's Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
But they did not do anything with that. Even like some weird like forced romance between them, I maybe would have bought. But I don't know. And the fact that they got like that big of an actress to play that small of a part, it's like, I wonder if they initially had the idea and then they scrapped it for some reason. Like it just kind of feels like, oh, this is setting up something that maybe they just didn't make the final edit or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was appropriate. I'll say that. Okay. Compared to the rest of the movie, appropriate to the rest of the movie that I don't like at all, but still, it's in line.
Yeah, I liked the ending quite a bit, and I'm glad he had an arc and he came to some self-purpose outside of just being the Crimson Bolt. You know, I did not laugh. I thought it was really weird when he's like, I'm gonna draw the 2 happiest moments of my life, and that way,
his drawings are like a fucking 6-year-old, and then he tapes them to the wall, and Liv Tyler just kind of looks at him and goes like, okay, you know.
Yeah, well, that she's on the way out anyways. I
mean, fuck, I guess.
Dude, his 2 happiest moments was his wedding day and when he told a cop where the bad guy went. I was like, and then they get to the end of the film and he's got all these drawings, and I didn't do the, oh my God, how fucking depressed is this guy if his 2 happiest moments is the wedding day and when he told a cop where a bad guy went. Like, that's it. That's all I can recollect that brings me happiest. And every morning I'm going to wake up and I will fond upon these 2 memories, you know, to him getting the drawing board going and realizing that, you know, his self-purpose is more than just hammering people with a wrench. It's, you know, being a kind individual, you know, that does things that's right, you know, and I really appreciated it. So,
there is another scene that I do like. It is the first and second day of him being the Crimson Bolt, and he's just hanging out by a fucking dumpster the entire time, and like literally nothing's happening. He's waiting for crime to happen, and it just doesn't, and it's so mundane. And I don't know. I like the fact that it is like just kind of a boring scene, but that's how it's meant to be. Like, that's what it would be like.
Where the satire, that's why I thought some of the satire comes in. Is like everyone else is like, you're always getting something like, going on, and he's like sitting behind some dumpster, and then he's got to go to the library, and he's like, where does crime take place?
Yeah, we're so used to seeing things like Batman perched up on a tower and like watching over the city looking for crime, and then like, you know, the bat signal comes up and he's like, oh, it's time to crime. And then, you know, if that were to happen in this movie, like, imagine you and I went to like downtown.
Dude, you don't have to tell. That's all I was thinking about.
We just hung out by like the corner and we're like, yeah, I can't wait to beat some ass. And then like literally you see 2 people walking around on like a Tuesday night. Like, that's how it would be. And I don't know. I like that scene, objectively like it.
There's some instances with the humor that comes up that I did not like.
I'm curious to hear yours. Yeah,
that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a time, you know, in the mid 2000s, early 2010s, where it was funny to be like, hey, obviously you're doing this, but I'm not doing this. It's when he dresses as a college kid with a beard, and you know, he's like, I'm in college. This isn't a fake beard. People talk like, I'm like, we're sitting on this too long.
Yeah,
you know, like this is so.
That was one of the jokes that made me go woof. Like,
yeah.
Did not land.
And then another one where he's like, you know, he's talking to the detective and he's like, there's nothing in my closet. And the guy's like, you've been looking at your closet quite a bit. And he goes, yeah, there's nothing in there. Oh, it's a dog.
To me, I don't know. There's so many jokes in this where like a little too long. You're putting way too much sauce on this.
Yeah.
Like the point is now just beaten over the head with it. And you're right. It is that like sort of like early 2000s thing of, or like 2010s thing of, oh, the funny part of this is going to be the joke is drawn out, and they're just going to keep going back to it. And it's like that may be one of the most aged aspects of this movie, other than the rape scenes, and they use a lot of slurs in this movie. Like, quite a bit.
This thing's like incredibly inappropriate.
It's so fucking you would not see movies use this language today. Like,
if this came out now, it'd be not rated. Like, I'm pretty sure that this thing would be. I mean, there was a couple like, oh, this feels weird, you know.
Like Kevin Bacon drops the hard N word
towards
the end.
No, that one I was like, yikes. Liv Tyler almost getting raped. Yikes. The kid that gets picked up to get. I'm like, yikes. Do we have to use a
Elliot
kid?
Page raping Rainn Wilson. Yikes.
See, now that one I'm probably It was so like, dude, I probably should not have been laughing the way I was laughing. I really thought it was to
be fair, like I don't know.
There's
maybe it's
more
like
to take out of it than just looking at it and be like, oh, she's fucking raping him. That's funny. It was more so about the playing into the nature of who are we as people compared to where we are as superheroes, you know, and this identity, you could call it crisis that you have, or the separation of two, you know, our dual identities.
Sure.
And it's like, well, where's Libby at in her motive versus obviously Rainn Wilson doesn't want this, you know?
I think it maybe would have, I don't know. I think it would have maybe worked for me if Libby just being herself, not being bolty, wasn't also like hyperactive the entire time. If like her character was just completely normal, like, you know who it she's like slightly sarcastic, but it's like reasonable and level-headed, and then puts on the costume and then just goes like fucking insano mode. Like, I maybe would have understood what that scene was going for.
Well, and that's why I think that's why she has to be herself a little bit in that, because it makes you question who's at control here, you know. And that's where obviously they're just one person. You're not a super fucking hero, you know. That's why she reminded me of Scrappy Doo in one of the Scooby Doo ones.
Oh, the first one?
Yeah, where Scrappy Doo was like, it was supposed to be for comedic effect and just like coked out.
Yeah, and they kick him out because he's annoying as shit. Yeah. Slight spoiler for Scooby Doo.
We didn't have to say he got kicked out. We just, could have played into how the character was. But.
I mean, well, now the people know. Also, funny enough, that movie written by James Gunn.
Yeah, I think that's why. So when you were saying about how annoying, I really think that's how he feels about sidekicks, and that's sort of his like archetype for him. You know, is like, and that's what supposed to give him some comedic element, but like, no, she wasn't. Yeah, she did the whole like exercise thing. Can I be on your team now? And I'm like, oh, this is supposed to be funny too. This isn't really funny. Like, there's a lot of jokes.
Yeah, that one also goes on way too long.
Dude, there's like a lot of these things that reminded me of The Office and a lot of that 2000s, 2010s humor where it's just
I guess, but like the thing with The Office too is like the way that it is framed. It is like people are acknowledging that Michael Scott is being annoying and like a bit of an asshole in those scenes, whereas like I don't know, this one we're just watching Elliot Page just like faff about in front of Rainn Wilson, and then that's like, okay, this is going on way too long. Like Rainn Wilson's not like shutting this down in time for me. Like, I don't know, there's like a difference there. I get what they were going for maybe, but I don't think it landed.
No, there's things in here that don't land at all, and then some of the things that do land with me really tickled me, and I so like kind of looking at this thing, it's it's got some all right points, some tickling, some funny moments to me, and then the ending did bring it home for me though. I really did appreciate his arc. I thought that there was he found happiness with what he was doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be clubbing people over the head with a wrench.
Sure. Can I go through my notes one by one?
Sure.
Just so, just in case.
I know you got a lot more passion on not liking this thing than I do on liking it.
I almost called Megan that night to rant to her about the movie, but she was busy and I couldn't. So I just had to contain my rage.
Much like the Crimson Bolt.
Exactly. I'm gonna let it out with a pipe wrench. So yeah, point one. Elliot Page has the line. I don't know anyone who would buy these Holy Avenger comics unless you want to laugh at how gay it is, which is quite the line and sort of ironic considering, where they are at in this year. And then Libby has the line, "How fucked would it be if you were a midget?" I said that earlier. Weird line. And then the Hispanic kid says, "What a great and sick F word."
Yep.
What if Frank is the only thing that can save me? The version of Frank getting raped in prison. Okay, this is another one that I wanted to bring up too. This is just like a quick little moment. It doesn't even have anything to do with like the Crimson Bolt or Bolty. Are Kevin Bacon's guards stupid because they didn't recognize the cop wasn't Frank? Like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time remembering that scene exactly, but
they walk in, and the detective was going to the closet to check it out,
and he fully turns around before they shoot him.
It was darkly lit. They put it in a darkly lit manner.
Okay.
I mean, it's not. I'm not. It's a stupid thing. I don't know. I was like, this is breaking and entering. Whatever this cop's doing is illegal. So the whole time that was going on, I was thinking about how is he going to justify going into this guy's house?
Yeah. Elliot Page does some cringe somersaults. Elliot Page is too intense in this movie. Like half my notes were about that character.
Yeah.
Elliot Page has such an annoying laugh and is psychotic. Sure is a lot of rape in this movie. And then my final note, Kevin Bacon saying fat N-word was a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those were not like a ton of notes, but like my gripes with this movie they just simply boil down to the humor, the dated aspects of this movie, and just like the type of tone that I'm not entirely sure if it landed what it wanted to land. You know, I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm not a fan of this movie. I'm glad I recommended it and that we talked about it because I think within the context of current day takes on superhero properties, you know, we got shows like The Boys, we got Invincible, we got hard R rated movies like Deadpool, we got Joker. We've got these versions of comic book characters that are coming to us in a way that feels an attempt at being a little more higher brow than your typical like MCU Marvel film or whatever. And then, you know, I think it's a fascinating look at like how that's kind of evolved over the years, you know, with movies like this and Kick-Ass sort of being, okay, this is like an answer to movies like Iron Man and The Dark Knight and specifically like Batman.
Yeah.
Maybe with Crimson Bolt, it's more of like a Daredevil thing, but I don't know. I just find it fascinating, this sort of like evolution of where these like sort of superhero media properties have found themselves and how this compares to a lot of what we see today. Obviously, I don't think you could do something exactly like this.
Right.
But I do think that shows like The Boys and Invincible and like more kind of like adult-oriented things are sort of like a natural evolution to something like this. This feels like kind of like the baby steps of where we are now in terms of like, okay, we're watching like a more mature take on this.
Well, I think this movie, I really do think that they stuck the ending on this thing, and I think that's kind of what got them Guardians. And like I said, I'd argue to this day if I could do it articulately or not, to sit down and actually have an art. But I think Guardians changed how superhero movies were viewed and how they were made. You know, and I think that this movie and probably Kick-Ass, probably with both of them coming out right around the same time,
which we'll also touch on before we wrap up.
Okay, yeah, played into that. So yeah, and natural evolution's correct. I also think that they're trying to ground it a little bit more into reality so that these characters, we can empathize a little bit more with some of the trials and tribulations that they're going through. Or you go on the completely opposite side and, you know, just leave them, you know, as invincible. And, you know, I mean, I think you have a harder time relating to that. Whereas this one, I couldn't necessarily relate to Frank. But I bet you there are probably some people that can, in a somewhat sense. He is very meek and timid, and it's even when he changes to the Crimson Bolt, it's not like, oh man, you've gone from being to awesome. It's just you got a pipe wrench now.
Yeah, you're the same dude. You're just a little more unhinged with a weapon.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But my favorite character or superhero out of all this is probably the Holy Avenger.
Holy Avenger rules. We stan Holy Avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're fans. spin-off movie when, James Gunn?
Yeah.
You've got the money now.
I don't know if I could. That'd be a very interesting. Did James Gunn play the devil too?
He did.
Okay.
He was the devil in those scenes.
Yeah.
And then obviously he's got like a lot of his regular players in this movie. You've got Michael Rooker as like the right-hand man to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And then you've also got his brother, Sean Gunn, who I always find it funny when people bring up gripes of like, oh, fucking James Gunn's nepotism with his brother. It's like his fucking brother's been with him for like decades.
Yeah.
In all of his movies. Like,
it's the same thing that Ron Howard did with his brother.
Exactly. Like fucking.
Or Adam Sandler with his group of boys.
Yeah. So
one of the guys is his brother-in-law. Yeah.
Shut up, crime, as this movie says. So there's a few things I wanted to bring up before we wrap up this discussion, which it kind of feels like we're sort of headed towards.
Yeah.
So James Gunn was married to Jenna Fisher, who plays Pam on The Office. And they divorced in 2008, but they still remain friends. And when James Gunn was making this movie, she recommended that he hire Rainn Wilson to be a part of this. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then also, we touched on it earlier, this movie came out the same year that Kick-Ass did. Very similar premise. Vigilantes without superpowers going around beating people up. It's an R-rated take on it. And I was reading about it a few days ago, and it seems like it's just one of those cases where, like, it's kind of coincidental, and it doesn't, entirely not make sense, because it is sort of like that natural answer to the superhero movies that were coming out at the time.
Oh, there's two different studios, right?
Yeah, so, like, this one was, it's sort of like a more indie film distributed by IFC. And then Kick-Ass was obviously like a higher production type of thing. Lionsgate put that one out.
Yeah.
And James Gunn is also friends with Kick-Ass co-creator Mark Miller, who helped write the comic book. And he's commented multiple times saying like, yeah, it was just purely coincidental. It kind of sucks that this movie got buried under Kick-Ass and it wasn't able to like enjoy the amount of success that Kick-Ass did, and now people think that it copied off of it. But
I don't know if I buy it or not. You got off-brand movies that come out. This definitely feels like an off-brand. Let's try to capture. Now it didn't though. I think this thing was like a bomb.
No, it made $593,000.
Yeah, at
the box office. So it was a stinker.
Yep.
It's a big old stinky whiff of poopy doopy. I went to school for English.
I can tell you that you do not like this film.
No, not really. Also, one tiny thing, I was able to tell that this movie was composed by Tyler Bates because he does the music for the John Wick movies. And there's sort of like those sort of static moments of characters, just sort of like the tension's brewing. You can tell it's a similar type of soundtrack that John Wick has, sort of like kind of that grungy synthy, like back and forth. So I mean, yeah, shit, that's where I'm at with the movie. I like the cinematography too. I thought he did I thought he had engaging camera shots and some unique takes on. Like I said, when that scene played out, when the cop came up to the door, I was laughing pretty good. Sure. I wasn't a huge fan of it.
I could tell. It reminded me a lot of Beau is Afraid.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I don't know. I would rather rewatch Beau is Afraid, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's 2.5 hours of what went on in his head for 20 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fever dream of a film, and I love every minute of it.
Yeah.
Let's get into ratings. What would you rate this film?
Initially, I had a 7 out of 10, and then I went up to an 8 out of 10 because the ending really brought it home for me. I really appreciated the ending and some of the sentiment that came along with it, with this really cartoony looking film, but yet we still have some sort of the realization of who he is as a person.
Yeah.
But after talking about it, it's gonna go back down to a 7. I realized there's not enough care to see this thing again. I did not. I thought it made me laugh. I think in 2010 this might have been a little bit funnier, especially kind of like on the tails of.
I could see myself.
Humor.
Yeah, I could see myself watching this movie at like, I don't know, 13 years old and having a good time with it.
Yeah. Wow, 13?
I mean, I don't know.
16, 17?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
13 feels a little...
I was kind of a sheltered boy.
Yeah. I think you would have been... Like, your eyes would have been wide open watching that at 13.
True. It is a little grimier of a film than I was used to at the time.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick with the 7. I don't have the qualms that you have with it. I thought it was a tightly written story that has some humor that hit, a lot of humor that didn't hit. But the ending really brought it home, and the people in it actually did a fine job with what they were tasked to do, even if it was annoying or over the top with some of them. I mean, but I think everyone kind of played their part well, and it didn't seem mailed in from anyone.
Cool. This is a 2 out of 10 for me.
Oh.
I think this is a big stinker of a film. I don't like the humor. I don't like the characters. Honestly, I think that this movie is kind of reprehensible, but I don't know. There's like a few things that I like with the ideas it was going for. Obviously, it is sort of like the answer to where superhero movies were at the time, but it is like very dated. It's steeped in that 2010s humor that I just don't think has aged well at all.
No.
And I will never watch this movie again. I have no desire to. If I see that it's on a television set in an environment that I am a part of, I will go the other direction. So
yeah, I'd check out a couple scenes just to get a good laugh.
Whenever Nathan Fillion's on screen, I'll check it out. I'll pop in.
Holy Avenger stuff was awesome.
Holy Avenger stuff, we stan.
Yeah,
we are fans of the Holy Avenger.
You've been touched by the tiniest tip of the finger of God.
Unironically, I would watch a whole movie of that. Of Nathan Fillion as the Holy Avenger, just doing like silly bullshit with saving the high schoolers from Satan. Like
that are 30 years old.
Yeah, I would watch an entire movie.
Dude,
of
one
that.
of the fucking PSAs was just eating bad food.
The other, what was the? It was like
There's 2 of them. There was the one of eating bad food, and he's like, "I've turned you all into sloths," because it's like you're eating like pre-processed food, and then the 2 kids are like, yeah, but that's why we pack a lunch and eat vegetables and fruits in our lunch. He's like, that's right, kids, and that's why you always bring your own lunch to school.
Yeah, and then the second one was he saves them from Satan tempting them to have sex before marriage, and
premarital sex.
They're all like dressed in this like BDSM shit.
The guy's got nipple piercings.
Oh man, I'm gonna remove these as soon as I can.
He's like doing his. Yeah, he's probably only in the thing for 5 minutes, and every time he came on, I really appreciated that. And then there's like, they play into the Holy Avenger comic books.
Yeah,
like they just made up their own comic books.
I'm glad it is diegetic like that. Like, oh yeah, it's part of the world. It's like what he's seen. It's not like a fucking just purely a fever dream of his.
Which it honestly could have been though, because like they played into it where there's like a little bit of an unreliable situation with like the tentacles that get wrapped around him, and then like so everything that he'd watched that night pops into his dream, and he was talking about how he'd always so it's a little bit of an unreliable narrator too. I mean,
here's another thing that I had with the movie. It's kind of a ding. If he's kind of like a loser nerd who reads this comic, but how come he has a very lack of knowledge of comic books and superheroes in general? Like I feel like he would know more about like Iron Man and Captain America and Batman and all this shit. Like,
no, I mean at 20, I don't know. I don't really ding people on that because that's just pop culture. I mean, some people,
I guess, but like when you're kind of a loser nerd like him, I don't know. I feel like he would have been more entrenched in that world.
He worked at it. He was a cook at a diner, and the only thing that he could recollect that made him happy was stopping a robber.
I'm just saying, maybe if he read more comics, he'd have more happy moments.
Well, that's why he went and got them.
I guess this is a man learning to be who he is.
Yeah, and I think the Holy Avenger inspired him.
You know what? The Holy Avenger inspires me. I can't deny that. So yeah, that was Super. That was our conversation on that. Maybe one of the more divisive discussions we've had, but that's okay.
Yeah,
because
that's what this is all about.
That's what this is all about.
Because I liked hearing that your take on the a little bit more of grounded in realism with grittier aspect on being a superhero, as a regular person. And I think there are two viewpoints that you could watch it, because I really didn't know what we were getting into, and I had that sense of it watching it, and then I kind of switched my tone. I think it was probably once the Holy Avenger came on. Actually, no, it wasn't that. It was when they did the comic book panel skit for the opening intro that I appreciated.
The little animation thing that they had.
Yeah.
Remind me a lot of the Run Lola Run thing. Where like it's kind of crappily drawn, but it's also got like a style of its own.
Yeah, I like that with I think it was Calling All Destroyers was the song that played with it.
I think so.
And I was like, all right, I'm kind of vibing this. This is like I don't know about neo-punk, but punkish look at it.
Interesting that also this movie came out the same year that Scott Pilgrim did. It almost felt like it was sort of going for like a Scott Pilgrim-esque type of style.
Dude, when you tell me that this thing wasn't copied, I wholheartedly don't believe that. I think that there's no coincidence.
It's at the very least heavily inspired. So,
I think he wrote this thing, and
there were some things that he had in mind that he was pulling from.
You know what probably happened? Because I think that I could see two different tones of this film, both of which we were talking about. When he wrote this, he was going on your parallel. And then with the sense of humor that we were seeing and some of the images that were coming out and the way that it was directed, he started leaning into more of the dark comedy.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't really cross when you're trying to have something gritty and grounded in realism and be satirical. Like, I don't...
That's what I'm saying.
I think that can be very... So it's either however... you have to approach it one way or another. And I do agree. I think that there's a little bit of both going on. And you're leaning on one side of the fence. I was leaning on the other. But actually looking at this thing, this is probably why I drifted in and out several times, is because when we got into some of that grounded in realism, I was like, don't care about it, and then when we got into more of the satirical approach, I'm like, giddy up.
See, and I was the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely, that makes more sense to me, because I think he did say he started writing this in 2002, 2003.
Yeah, he wanted originally to get, I think, John C. Reilly to play the Crimson Bolt, but then... he couldn't get him because he was too big of a star.
Yep.
And then he felt like he just couldn't at the time because nobody knew who the fuck he was.
Yeah.
Look at him now. I almost thought about saving this recommendation for when his Superman movie comes out next year, but I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk about this in response to Deadpool and Wolverine, and also like just all the different cultural superhero things going on at the time and now.
Yeah.
So
that's a good pull.
Thank you. I suffered. No, I was fine. I'll be fine. The Holy Avenger will heal me.
Right. You've seen it.
He'll baptize me.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple things that you can pull from this thing that you can hold on to.
Sure. Well, this movie's gonna stick with me.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yep.
So I really didn't prepare any like questions or reviewing reviews or anything because I'm a lazy boy and I kind of just wanted to chill this weekend. So I was just gonna see what you've been watching recently. Like what have you been checking out? Have you been super busy with everything?
We watched there's the Netflix series that came out in 2021 called Made.
Okay.
Interesting look at a little bit of how we view the underclass. It's about a single mom that's going through some domestic violence stuff. So it touches on a lot of heavy topics. Sort of a look at the working class, and how there's a stigmatism around.
It's got Margaret Qualley in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not bad. It's based on a book.
I've seen a poster for this. It reminds me of something that I would see that's based off of a book, just like the poster of it.
Yeah. So we watched that and it wasn't bad.
Okay.
I think I really feel like any media that comes out nowadays will hold your attention. Like if you give it the time of day, you can watch pretty much damn near anything out right now and formulate an opinion about what you're viewing. Whereas I don't know if it was the case 15, 20 years ago.
Gotcha. Was that the only thing?
And I also watched Meet the Parents again.
Okay.
That is a fantastic movie.
Is that why you pulled it earlier? It was more familiar on your mind. You compared it to the first and second Deadpool movies, I think, right? You compared it to something.
Yeah, I don't know about... It wasn't Meet the Parents. Well, maybe I did. You could always go back. I don't remember.
I don't know. I thought you did. Oh no, you were doing it with I think the Blade movies.
Yes.
That was what it was.
I don't know if I was comparing. It was more so about.
You were pulling an example.
I did say Meet the Parents. I said they didn't like Blade. I feel like had a 3-picture budget come out and say we were doing 1, 2, and 3. Like, so Meet the Parents comes out, right?
Yeah.
And that was 98, 99, I want to say.
I think so. I mean, I don't know.
I gotta imagine it was right before 9/11. Then 2004, I think Meet the Fockers comes out. And that was obviously like, well, we own this piece. It had a lot of commercial success. Why don't we double down on it when we can?
Why don't we just do the same thing except it's reversed? Let's have Robert De Niro meet his parents.
Yeah,
and then that's where it's gonna be funny.
Yeah, and
then the third one was, let's have them have babies.
Yeah, this is the first time I watched it today. I watched Meet the Parents last night, and then I was like, I want to watch Meet the Fockers because I really don't remember anything, and I've had it on several times. And it's like still, but it actually did give me a funny. One of the lazier things in writing, I think, is why I always hate sequels too, is that there's a 5-minute period or a 20-minute during the exposition. We always have to go and remind you about the first one. We have to always bring up, hey, remember this funny scenario that happened? We're going to kind of touch back on that again. They did that so much in this film, and I was like, God, this is just so lazy. This sucks. And then I had the epiphany. I was like, oh, this did come out before the time of streaming. So, like, those older movies, if you didn't own it and it's 5 years later, you might not remember those jokes.
Right.
Like, there's a good chance you just haven't seen that film since you saw it in theaters.
There's a grace period back then that was afforded that you don't necessarily get now because everything's so instant and available.
Yeah. Like, even in Deadpool Wolverine, I think there's a couple quips here and there, but they don't spend a whole lot of time looping you back into the previous events. You know, and I think that's where movies are kind of going now, where we can get away from some of that lazy writing that happens. Like, obviously you still have to pull in a little bit of, don't you remember this is so and so, blah blah blah, you know, but like, dude, and Meet the Fockers, there's like at least 20 minutes solid runtime of like, we're recanting all of the jokes from the previous one. So
yeah,
that one's all right. There's a couple humorous things in there.
I've seen Meet the Parents, I think, a couple of times. Obviously,
fantastic film,
iconic movie. Really, like Robert De Niro fully embracing the comedic chops that he has.
Yeah.
Just placing himself in that environment. Ben Stiller's doing good work. I've seen bits and pieces of Meet the Fockers. I haven't seen the whole thing, and then I don't think I've seen anything about Little Fockers.
No,
which was like, that one was even released later than the second one in relation to the first one, right? That one came out in like, what, 2010 or something?
2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to verify.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure, because I had it on Peacock, and they have the years below it. Like, that's the only reason I know Meet the Fockers.
2010.
Yeah. When Meet the Fockers come out? Was that 2004? Let's do the timeline here real quick.
So I'm going to look up Meet the Parents first.
Okay.
That was 2000, exactly.
Oh, nice. So that was right before 9/11.
And then Meet the Fockers was 2004.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does have that. It kind of reeks of that, like, we're going to give it some time just
Cash
in case
cow.
we really want to do this.
Yeah,
and
Ben
then
Stiller,
we'll we'll break the emergency glass if we want to guarantee us some profits.
Yes. That's I think what happened with our Little Fockers too.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I've seen
that sort of reeks of it even more.
I did
because like so many movies do that where like there's a lot of DreamWorks movies that do that specifically where it's like, oh, we're the third in the series. What do? Let's give them fucking babies.
Yeah.
So that they have like, you know, shit
it was
to
still
do.
Playing into because in Meet the Fockers they get pregnant. So it still plays into a little bit of what the timeline is of what's going on. You know, it's not great. I'm not condoning it. I'm just at least it wasn't like out of left field where it's like we're just gonna hand them babies. Like they do get pregnant in the second one. Spoiler.
I think it'll be fine. Anything else you've been rewatching or watching?
No, I had the conversation with Jasmine this morning. Or maybe it was last night. I looked at her. I was like, "What? If I watched anything new?" And she's like, "We watched Made." I was like, "Yeah, we did." No, the Olympics have been on, so I think my nights have been kind of tied into that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm trying to go down and think if I have, and I really just think that's been about it.
In normal Kyle fashion, I've been watching a shit ton of stuff.
Yep.
So I finished all the Mad Max movies. I went back and I watched the older ones. Obviously really dig the second movie. First movie was just really interesting in terms of like what George Miller was doing.
World creation.
Yeah, and the limited budget and how it's like sort of like a pseudo-apocalypse, like it hadn't quite happened yet.
Yeah.
Like Mad Max can still go and buy ice cream. Like,
yeah.
That's just an interesting idea there that, you see the progression. It just makes it more quaint. And then Thunderdome, really love the first half. And then they get into the other stuff. I won't spoil it.
Don't, because I gotta see.
Oh, okay.
I think I've only seen the first one. I might have seen the second one. I have not seen Beyond the Thunderdome.
Yeah, I'd be curious what you think of those. Maybe we'll do an episode on those in the future. Maybe not like anytime soon because I just watched them.
Yeah.
I showed Adam Bone Tomahawk. He had never seen it before.
Yes.
I actually increased my rating on that because that movie fucks.
I think what'd you give it?
I gave it an 8 out of 10 initially, and then on this rewatch, I increased it to a 9.
Because I think I'm at a 9.
I might have re-listened to our conversation about that, and I think you're right.
Yeah, because I had seen it one time, I completely missed it, and then, dude, the characters that's a great standalone film.
When I
don't even know
out,
I have to say standalone. That's just a great film.
Well, it's funny because talking to Adam about it, because he had mentioned, oh yeah, I watched Brawl in Cell Block 99. I watched Dragged Across Concrete.
Yes, another great.
And he was like, I wonder why S. Craig Zahler hasn't made another movie since Dragged Across Concrete. And I was like, well, he's an author, right? Like he writes novels. And he's like, I did not know that. And it makes sense when you watch his movies because the characters they feel very literary.
Yes.
Like it almost feels like these characters are being pulled from a piece of prose.
Yes.
And that's a big thing I appreciate about all of his movies and especially Bone Tomahawk. I watched M. Night's new movie Trap.
Oh, I kind of want to see it.
I'd be very curious what you think of that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's one we can talk about next episode if you do see it. We won't put like a huge stamp on it, but if you happen to check it out, we could
the
have a quick
chances
convo.
of it happening are probably not high.
For sure. But I'd be curious your thoughts on it. I won't give my hand in case we discuss it.
Okay.
I rewatched all the John Wick movies. I think I told you that.
Shocker.
I know, right? I want to dive into those special features. And then yesterday, I rewatched Rat Race with Gideon and Lauren because that is one of Gideon's favorite movies. What are your thoughts on Rat Race?
At the time, so that movie came out and my dad was coaching high school football. Now, I didn't go with him, but they were playing Escanaba in the playoffs. It was like 2000, 2001, somewhere in that time frame, right? And they were in Escanaba. They got up there way too early. They had to figure out something to do where they were staying the night so they didn't have to travel on Saturday. So they had to find something for the kids to do. So my dad and the coaching, the whole team went to, there's a Plaza 1 and 2 up there, They went and saw the film, and my dad said it's one of the hardest movies that he had ever seen. And he said I was laughing so hard I was crying. So the movie comes out to VHS. We rented it from Blockbuster. Shout out. And at the time, hysterical. I do think I rewatched that thing not too long ago and incredibly outdated for me.
Sure, maybe your feelings on it are how I feel about Super. Kind of.
The slapsticky physical humor stuff.
It's ridiculous. It's almost like you're watching a cartoon,
dude. That's what I'm saying. I appreciate to some extent that stuff. I don't like over the top with it, but if you can sneak in a very funny out of left field physical, because we talk about comedies, that's why comedies are so hard to let's watch this one, because I feel like they're all within the sense of what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
because you're poking fun at what you're seeing, right? So anyways, Rat Race, I watched it not too long ago, and I was like, man, this is really outdated for me, and there's still some funny things in there.
I think it is a very funny movie. I don't love it the same way Gideon does.
It's probably nostalgic for him, and
it's very nostalgic.
Probably
for him.
Gets the same laughs out of the same stuff.
He does, and I think part of my enjoyment of the movie is watching him watch the movie, because it's one of those things where I can tell he loves it so much and he's so into it that it becomes to the point of endearing.
Yeah.
Watching this movie with him, because I don't know, I might have the same experience as you do. If I watch this movie by myself or just with Megan or whatever, I don't know if I would find it as funny.
Yeah.
But because every time I watch it, it's always with Gideon and he loves it so much. It's like, okay, there's like an added charm here that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Well, you get another character in the film. He's just sitting next to you now.
I'm getting color commentary, except the commentary is just like laughing at the screen, repeating the jokes, which like, you know, I always find fun.
Yeah.
Like it's a good time.
There are movies that are like that. We've talked about that before. I mean, there are movies that are like that where you can sit down and it's like it might not necessarily be great, like Spider-Man.
Right.
You sit down, you could watch. You know, I watch it with Sam. I could watch it with my dad. I could watch it by myself and still get the same enjoyment out of it.
Incredibly versatile movie.
Yeah. Yeah, where I think nostalgia really beats into that stuff. And if someone had not seen Spider-Man and they sit with me and now we can talk about some of the things going on, like you're just going to get a smile simply just by like looking at the film in a different lens and just approaching it as like, you know, feed my eyes.
Yeah. Not that they're entirely the same either, but I did sort of make the comparison yesterday of, this movie is sort of like Wet Hot American Summer in that there is a lot of different types of humor going on in this movie that anyone could watch this and get like some amount of enjoyment out of like a specific character or like specific situations. Like there's parts of Wet Hot American Summer that I thoroughly enjoy way more than other parts.
Yep.
And I feel the exact same way about Rat Race, where it's like, yeah, this is an incredibly like wide-reaching movie that just sort of hits a variety of people in different ways.
Mm-hmm. I think there's the thing's riddled with jokes. I mean, the only way to make that movie miserable is if you don't laugh at one joke.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And I guess like I say outdated, it's not necessarily where I'm not laughing at anything. It's just the humor that I had when I saw it the first time does not match my intensity level the second time.
Here's something I'll propose to you the next time you watch the movie.
Watch it with Gideon.
Well, A, watch it with Gideon. B, watch it with the lens that it is almost like a weird dystopian apocalypse movie. Because the situations these characters find themselves in feel like almost Mad Max-esque.
Dude, you just took the words out. Especially with the environment that they're set in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to give anything away from the movie in case people want to see it, but there's situations where like Cuba Gooding Jr. finds himself in that is like the most ridiculous scenario.
All of them.
That almost feels apocalyptic.
Yeah. I will take that because I do like having viewpoints change on films. It's one of the reasons why I love talking to Sam about movies because he'll always say, I looked at it this way, and it's like, I'm going to go back and check it out that way.
Yeah. If you watch Rat Race, just look at it as if it's almost like a pseudo Mad Max film.
Yeah. Like,
I think that'll help your experience.
Very satirical, then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much it, though. Like, that's what I've been watching. That's what you've been watching.
Yeah, that's what we've been watching.
And we're going to be watching something else for the next episode.
Yes.
Because you've got a recommendation to make.
So I do. Did we have anything paired up? Did we say we're gonna see something in theaters?
So let me look up what is going on right now. We've got the Borderlands movie, which looks like absolute dog shit. I wouldn't want to force you to watch that. Trap is still in theaters, so if you want to check out the new M. Night
I just
movie,
don't know if it will be there in time for me to go and see it.
Right, and that's always the gamble with this type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. What's coming out next week? Let me look at what's playing Friday. Oh, Alien Romulus is coming out.
Ooh. Now, see, I don't have a horror film that I want to pair that with.
I mean, it's okay. If it's whatever type of movie, we can always just have a little fun with it. It doesn't have to match it. There's fucking Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Nope.
Barely seen any marketing for that. There's Cuckoo, the one with Hunter Schafer, the horror film. Sort of looks almost Cure for Wellness-esque, where it's like she's in a mental hospital or something, or like a asylum.
We'll come back to what we can pull from theaters.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll let you guys know online.
All right. I got two. I got two, and I'm gonna see what one you pick. Okay.
Okay.
I had one that was the brunt of a joke. a couple times when I was young reading comic books.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. There's another one that I believe. Hold on one second. I've got
take as much time as you need.
No, I got it right here. I know what the one is, just because I want to see it, just to say I've seen it. The other one is directed by a controversial director, and a movie that sounds like it could be mysterious or just bad. So, your options are Run of the Joke bad movie that I think at one point used to be talked about quite a bit, but now that the internet's out and we have so much media, it's just kind of gone into the ether.
Okay.
The other one is controversial director. That could be not necessarily controversial in the sense of, playing into society, but more so of what are we viewing.
Interesting. Save the controversial director for another time.
Okay.
I'm curious about the Brunt of the Joke one.
Okay. You ready?
So, yeah, hit me with it.
Ishtar.
Ishtar.
Yep. We're going to watch Ishtar.
1987.
Yeah.
Directed by Elaine May.
Yeah. Who? Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I see him in the banner photo on Letterboxd right now.
I don't know. I'm hoping that we can find this somewhere.
There is a 2020 Ishtar directed by Mia Gorgeous.
Nope.
Oh, that looks like a short film. So
okay.
It's not. Yeah, people should easily be able to distinguish the two.
This is one that has been in the history books for a while for me.
Okay.
On terms of movies that are probably like, how did they get made? I have no idea what the movie's about.
Well, I like Dustin Hoffman wearing a Hawaiian shirt, so
yep,
this is going on the watch list. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll check out Ishtar. If you guys don't want to be spoiled for that film, be sure to check out Ishtar. I'm so curious what this conversation is going to be in 2 weeks.
This movie could be a 2 out of 10. It could be a 9 out of 10. I think it's one of the two.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of the Neon Crew podcast. Be sure to catch episode 77 when it comes out 2 weeks from the release of this episode. You can find us on www.neoncrewpodcast.com. We're also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and be sure to give us some 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Be sure to cop some merch on our Etsy page. Those are still available. Some cool, neat designs that my friend Lauren made for us. You can go there and bestow upon yourself some lovely t-shirts and crew neck sweaters. Shout out to Gideon for doing our music. Shout out to Lauren for doing our logo design. Shout out to Sam for doing the night call. If he had one this episode, I hope you enjoyed that. If he didn't, well, hopefully you can catch him the next time. Be sure to follow our social medias on Facebook and YouTube community, where we'll post some audience engagement and we'll let you guys know what movies we're going to discuss for the next episode. McLean, what do we say to wrap this episode up?
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.